Hello everyone, you're welcome to another wonderful edition of Iron Port, the program that has been specifically designed to bring Ghana's sports and maritime industry closer to you. Iron Port is proudly brought to you by the Ghana Revenue Authority, Goyle PLC Serene Insurance, Ghana Link, the Meridian Port Services, and Phoenix Insurance. It is powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, and our media partner is the Business and Financial Times. Viewers, this week we touched on a very interesting topic. We discussed India's ban on the exportation of rice, exploring the impact it will have on Ghana's economy and the lessons that we can learn. The experts we spoke to all emphasized that it's about time. It is a wake-up call for Ghana and other developing countries to look within and scale up production. Here is more on what they had to say.
In West Africa, we have Nigeria, we have Ivory Coast, we have Senegal that are heavily dependent on Indian rice. Ghana was not mentioned. Is that a cause for us to say, okay, yes, we shouldn't bother? Or you think that we should have cause, to worry?
India, yes. We have the brown rice, we have the red rice and the white rice that we all know here. Now, the red rice and the brown rice, which primarily is more dominant in the Central Volta region of Likpe, Logba, its environs, is possibly the most nutritious rice among all the global rice that you can find.
Right.
It has the high fiber content, and the most important one, which others don't even have, is the high presence of the antioxidants in them, which of course a lot of people who want to fight diabetes and all that are being told to consume brown rice and red rice. These are one of the most leading nutritious rice you can not find any other part of the world except Ghana.
Right.
The situation in India, I have always consistently said that global events must afford us the opportunity to enhance and make the deliberate necessary investment into what we think are our national priorities.
Right.
And you see, as a country, we haven't seen a lot being driven on the rice sector. The last Ghana's rice policy strategy was developed in 2008.
Right.
So if you look at it, global events, food importation, especially on rice, and several other things have changed over the years. Okay, so one would have expected that Ghana's strategy would have changed over the years. For instance, if you look at the three main grains and cereals, you look at wheat, corn, and rice. We before the 2016 PFJ introduction, we were doing somewhere about 1.5 million metric tons. Okay, of which we were doing just about 600,000 in terms of milled rice production in the country.
Right.
At the time, our total importation bill was far below $600,000. Now, fast forward, our consumption have increased. Now, let me also add that Ghana also exports rice.
Right.
We export to South Korea, we export to Japan, US, and the sub-region. In fact, Nigeria takes a lot of paddy rice from us. So, and also Benin.
Okay.
If you go to the Sogakope enclave, the African Tiger Group actually export most of their rice to a factory in Benin where they use it for beer and other derivatives.
Right.
So Ghana is quite positioned. If you look at our climate, we have very fantastic climate. The humidity level actually supports rice production. Volta region alone, if we intensify mechanization and adopt the right climate change. For instance, Agra has been a very strong leader in supporting the rice industry. Before Agra,
Agra.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So before Agra, we've seen the work done by JICA, the Japanese government, in supporting the rice. Where those days we had Voradep, Iradep, Noridep, and all that were all strategic in supporting the rice industry. However, we have seen Agra doing a lot. So as one of the varieties that is mostly cultivated in the country, we have the Agra variety. We also have the Jasmine, of course, and we have the Expiler. Now, West Africa Center for Crop Improvement, WACI, of University of Ghana, has also been doing quite a fantastic job in that area. They've trained quite high-profile, skilled people in plant breeding. And these people are able to come up with high-yielding rice varieties rice that can withstand climate. So we call them drought-resistant crops.
Yeah.
And we have also seen some local industry like Legacy, MMBCs, and the Iowa, these three being the major rice multiplication or seed multiplication companies.
Right.
With support from their membership, NASDAQ, where they have supported a lot of seed growers and the seed traders. I think that a lot needs to be done.
Right.
The issue of the India situation, for me, I don't think it's an issue Ghana needs to be concerned about.
Okay.
What we should rather be putting in place, for instance, in September 2022, government introduced a new tax. Now, what that new tax had done.
What tax is that?
So that was what we call the tax exemptions.
Okay.
Those Tax Exemption Act of 2022, Act 1083.
Right.
Now, what it did, for me, is not the issue of the Indian one, but it was this. This rather increased the cost of bringing in farm inputs.
Okay.
No, not even the import.
Yes.
Look, we can do a lot. And as I've said, this tax mitigated against a lot of importers who otherwise would have brought in much more inputs that they have brought this year.
Yes.
We did a press conference on this in support with our collaborators, CropLife, NASDAQ, Peasant Farmers, Ghana Rice Professional Body, of course, and the Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana. It was only since January, it was only this month that the minister was making his first comment on this.
You are a trade expert, and he thinks that we shouldn't worry at all, with the Indian situation. They are not exporting rice, and because perhaps we do not take rice from India, we have no cause to worry. As a trade expert, do you share the same opinion?
I think I would like to differ a bit, mostly because, number one, he made an opening statement which I would take from him that when things happen, globally speaking, when things happen, you shouldn't take it that it wouldn't come to you. We were here when the Ukraine-Russian war began, and just with a little time, we observed that it had impact on the food staples that we consume. And so in this context, yes, I would say that it's not a cause for alarm, but it should be a cause for preparation and precaution. And what do I mean by these? I mean that, yes, Ghana or India is one of the top 5 major supplying countries of rice into Ghana.
Right.
Even with what happened in India, the ban was done in, was effected in July.
July, yes.
And even there were some ripple effects of that in the US and in Canada. Already, that ban, just the information of the ban, has already contributed to the price increase of rice, in some parts of the world.
Right.
And given the fact that the rice that is produced, whether it's basmati or non-basmati in India, some of it ends up here, it has an implication. Vietnam is our number 1, followed by Thailand, and then India.
Yes.
Then we have China and Pakistan. Now, even in Vietnam and Thailand, given what India has done, it could be that they could either look at the situation, because the context of this is that India has a challenge of a forecasted low production of rice, and already they are feeling it in terms of the inflation, the food inflation in India. So as a precaution on their side, they've decided to put a ban on the export of some varieties of rice. So I'm saying that the implications may not be there immediately, but it depends on how we prepare and how we decide to go around the situation.
Should this particular directive or policy by the Indian government be a wake-up call to developing countries? And what impact do you see it having on continental trade?
So yes, I agree with you on the point that it should create a wake-up call for developing countries. The reason being that, yes, if you take many parts of the world, countries are working towards securing access to inputs, raw materials, and food that they need. For example, if you take the EU, they have put in place a new policy called the Critical Materials Act, which contains ways by which they can have access to lithium, copper, and other kinds of materials that can be used for renewable energy. Because to them, the future of their country depends on access to these raw materials. And so they've created that kind of system. So again, there's a need for countries, developing countries like Ghana and others, to look at ways to secure their access to food. Food sufficiency does not necessarily mean that you produce all that you need, but it means you have access to it all year round whenever you need it. And so it is important for us to begin to think about the strategies to do that. I think the challenges on the production side have been enumerated, but it doesn't mean that you cannot go ahead to work on your production, because production is the beginning. I do think that we have capacity to expand production. There are already government initiatives that have gone on, planting for food and jobs, that went on for a while. There's been subsidy for rice. Farmer Morrison has mentioned initiative to support multiplication of seeds and things like that for rice sector. I think those should be pursued aggressively. Number two, I think we should look at increasing irrigated rice production. I've seen irrigated rice production in Esuchari. Some are coming up in the Nasia, Nabugu area, very much supported. So those things should be expanded. Those other support services that are needed to drive rice production should also continue. I'm talking about access to finance, that banks and all kinds of financial institutions should begin to look at innovative ways to support the rice production industry, especially those commercial banks that have high interest. He mentioned smart guarantees, the use of guarantees established by GESAL, Ghana Incentive Risk System, which is supporting banks to be able to support agricultural sector. So these are things that for Ghana we should continue to do. I'm just saying that it should be accelerated. We should have a strategy. The rice strategy, which was 2008, of course, that kind of was almost enhanced by the planting for food and jobs. But we need a new strategy to say, where are we going now? ECOWAS launched a rice offensive strategy to make sure that we achieve sufficiency in rice by 2025. We're just two years away. I don't know if there's been any assessment of the journey so far and what it takes. But this is just highlighting the fact that because of the globalization, because of the interconnectedness between us, there's a need for a lot of, he mentioned intelligence. People should be looking at trends and be saying that this is what this means for us. We don't need to be taken by surprise. We don't need to be reacting. We should rather be, proactive and taking the right initiative.
So viewers, you just heard from Dodo Seido, who is an after consultant, and Farmer Anthony Morrison, who is the CEO of Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana, on the way forward so far as rice production in the country is concerned in the face of India's ban on rice exports. Let us now hear from you on your comments on the subject we have just discussed after we go on break, and then we'll be back with more news. Stay tuned. This comes from Alpha Prosper in Adidome. He says, I really support Mr. Morrison. He understands our situation in Ghana very well. All what he is saying is very true. I am a farmer. This comes from Maxwell in Accra. He says, I heard one of your panelists talk about lack of regulation. The Ministry of Agriculture is one of the public institutions that have a lot of partners and collaborative entities, including NGOs. What they have failed to do is to bring all these NGOs under one umbrella, to create a community for them where they can respond actively to the policies. The part these development partners play is not consistent with what the policies say. I have been working with the agri-development partners and international ones in Ghana. That is the challenge that I see. That synergy does not exist. There is the need for the ministry to sit down with all these development partners, including the international ones, and streamline the activities of these organizations to what the ministry is trying to do.
Ohima, no be I take your number first.
By you. You tell me say take your number give me.
Guys, now I'm tired. I'll go on a date with whoever gets here first.
Princess, really?
Okay, I dey come.
Shut up!
Mame, Philip, can't remember what it.
Boss, fill my tank with Super XP Ron 95.
Fill up with Super XP Ron 95 and Diesel XP high performance products from Goyle.
Sorry, Tony got here first, so I'm stepping with him.
Oh,
Cut him.
hey, go for na buajungwa mami.
Choose Super XP Ron 95 and Diesel XP for an energizing driving experience. Always go for Goyle Super XP Ron 95. Goyle, good energy.
Electricity, pay your taxes. Yeah. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is, you still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
Impressive factory. If only I had listened to you, I wouldn't have been in this mess. That devastating fire virtually wiped out the whole factory and my warehouse.
Remember my misfortunes last year? Serene Insurance Asset All Risk Fire policy that I took were there to pay for my damaged stocks in the warehouse. And my machines that were affected by the floods have been replaced. My accident vehicle is back on the road thanks to Serene Insurance Motor Policy. Currently, my goods are on the IC covered with their marine cargo insurance policy. I was just telling Ajima about Serene Insurance.
Oh, Ajima.
Tell him more.
As a road contractor,
I make sure I do my contractors all risk insurance
for the projects and then workers' compensation for all the workers on site. With Serene Insurance, they will make sure they will cover your unknown tomorrow today.
Serene Insurance, a new face of insurance. Call us now.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
Business and life can be like the sea sometimes. Sometimes serene, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent, and at times it brings the unexpected. However it is like, trust Phoenix Insurance for your home, car, business, and marine insurance needs. Call 0302 246 319 or 0243 690 492.
At Phoenix, you experience a delightful service delivered with wisdom.
Thanks for staying, viewers. Now let us pick a few stories from our local port and maritime sector. The UK-Ghana Chamber of Commerce has commended the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority for putting in place the necessary infrastructure and systems that have improved the business environment in Ghana. The Managing Director of Unilever Ghana, George Owusu-Ansah, said this when he led a delegation from the Chamber on a working visit to management of the Port Authority.
We also do work around the business environment, business and trade environment in Ghana, and I would say that the last edition, which was issued in February 2023 did indicate that there have been some improvements in the business environment in Ghana. And we believe this improvement will not have come about without some of the improvements that we've seen at the port expansion, etc. So kudos to you and the team for the work that is going on.
The visit formed part of the UKGCC's series of engagements being embarked on with policymakers, stakeholders, and business partners towards strengthening business relations.
At the end of our engagement today, we would have built the base for stronger collaboration between us as we go forward, all in the spirit of making sure that we make doing business in this country easier.
They were received by the Director General of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, Michael Lugoje, who maintained that his outfit is open to discussions that lead to workable solutions towards reducing cost of doing business at the ports.
The total cost of doing business, port clearance, you have customs charging, you have shipping lines, you have freight forwarders, you have the port authority, all these individuals are there. So mostly when we are confronted with your port charges, your port tariff that is expensive, we try to seek some indication on whether you've looked at your total costs and the individual agency specific contributions, and you are certain that is the port authority's component that is killing you. If you can prove that to us, we'll be happy to assist you.
The General Manager Marketing and Corporate Affairs at GPHA, Esther J.B. Donko, provided some justification for tariff increments by the Port Authority.
We also happen to be one of those businesses that have been affected by what is happening around us, and we have to pay for the high prices of our inputs that we use to handle the cargo, to provide the service that we provide. And so unfortunately, in as much as we accept that this whole global trend is affecting businesses and reducing the quantities that you are bringing through the port, for us, we better not handle at all than to handle and make a loss.
A team from the United States Department of Agriculture has paid a working visit to the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority to engage the authority on a number of issues that affect trade. The team is in Ghana to meet key institutions to understand Ghana's approach to the generation of agricultural and related trade statistics to support the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. The team was received by the Director General of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, Michael Lugoje. Issues discussed centered on how data of agricultural products are collected, challenges in collecting data, and how data is streamlined. The USDA team believes the information gathered will assist them come up with a report that will provide recommendations to serve the interest of participating countries and other AFCFTA.
This information will help us come up with a report that will hopefully provide recommendations and follow-up actions that will serve the interests of participating countries, in this case Ghana being, an example, and the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat. So again, we are going to share our recommendations with the Secretariat, and then together we will work with them to determine follow-up actions to help implement the recommendations or actions that will come from our report.
The General Manager Marketing and Corporate Affairs at GPHA, Esther J.B. Donko, took the team through the cargo handling process at the port and how data is captured.
We handle agricultural products, a bit of it through the ports. Most of them goes through the airports because of the perishable nature of agricultural exports that we handle. You depend on the declaration of the exporter, but when it is stuffed in their farms and what have you, then you rely on the declaration of the exporter.
The acting General Manager of Corporate Planning at the Ghana Port and Harbours Authority, Khalid Nuhu, added on to that.
The data first is captured actually at the waterfront, because the exporter would first have to provide us with a manifest indicating the quantities, and that is verified at the waterfront here. That data is processed and integrated in our total data for import and export. Exactly.
The Director General of GPHA, Michael Lugoje, described some challenges associated with maritime transport within the continent of Africa.
Shipping is about volume. For it to be profitable, it has to be volume. So if you don't have volume, and you are using smaller vessels to move cargo from, let's say, Congo to Dakar, a small vessel that is coming to compete for port space with bigger vessels that are coming from other continents. If there's no regime that will let the port give this smaller vessel some preferential access, and that vessel has to queue with all the bigger ones to access the port at cost, how will the shipper be able to sell within the market and make a margin? So there's a lot of work to do in terms of special conditions for cargo that is going to circulate within.
Between the 21st and 27th of August, the Ghana National Fire Service celebrated the Fire Safety Week for the year 2023. As part of activities to mark the week, the National Fire Service has conducted a collaborative simulation exercise with the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. The exercise, that lasted for about an hour at the Marine Block in the port of Tema, demonstrated a readiness of the combined fire team to fight potential incidents. Assistant Chief Fire Officer Doris Lamte is the Tema Regional Commander for the Ghana National Fire Service.
Yeah, the response here, yes, very, very, very impressed, because you realize that they all came out, nobody was panicking, and it was good for us. Everybody came out without holding anything, so you realize that the message of fire safety, that when the alarm is sound, just leave the premises to the safe haven, has really gone down with us.
According to the Harbour Master and Incident Commander at the Port of Tema, Captain Francis Kwesi Micah, such drills are necessary to continuously improve the responsiveness of the authorities' personnel against possible dangers.
So as long as we do have containers here, and as long as we have the Fire and Safety Department going on the beat, regular patrols, trying to identify potential hazards, potential risk, and having their readiness to combat, I think we are good to go.
All right, viewers, let us now move on to the global stage and pick a few international shipping and maritime related news. Dalian Shipbuilding, a subsidiary of China's State Shipbuilding Corporation, has delivered a 16,000 TEU container ship to Mediterranean shipping company named MSC Vivian. The container ship features numerous energy-saving and environmentally friendly features. Capable of accommodating 16,520 standard containers, this ship has been given the LNG-ready class notation, which means that its design enables it to be easily converted to run on LNG. Initially, the ship is expected to sail on conventional fuel. However, the DNV-class ship is equipped with a hybrid exhaust gas cleaning system. The new Panamax container ship features dual islands at its fore and aft, making it adept for traversing expansive maritime domains without constraint. The design of the ship integrates fortified fire protection measures and a one-man pilot system. The Saudi Port Authority has reached a partnership deal with Port of Rotterdam to collaborate in the areas of smart ports, human capital development, knowledge transfer, and commercial opportunities. The agreement was signed at Jeddah Islamic Port by Umar Hariri, Mawani President, and Budwin Simons, CEO at Port of Rotterdam Authority. The deal will further enhance cooperation between both entities in port corporatization, a widely adopted business model based on outsourcing terminal operations to the private sector while keeping the ownership and regulatory aspects in the hands of autonomous government bodies. The objectives of the agreement include support of marine ecosystems and green ports initiative, create economic and social values. All right, it's now time for our Word of the Day segment, where we introduce words, phrases, jargons, and terminologies that we often use in this industry so you can get familiar with them. Today, we'll tell you what the artificial reef stands for. An artificial reef is a submerged structure deliberately placed on the seabed to mimic some functions of a natural reef, such as protecting, regenerating, concentrating, and/or enhancing populations of living marine resources. It's now time for the schedule of vessels that have berth in the port, those at the anchorage, and those expected in the coming weeks, plus the Bank of Ghana exchange rates, which you may need to know to clear your cargo with. This is where we draw the curtain on today's edition of Iron Pot. We hope you've been informed and educated. Remember, all Iron Pot content can be found on our YouTube as well as all our social media platforms at Iron Pot. Please subscribe, like, and give us feedback. Thank you for watching.